Good afternoon. My name is Nate Wrights. It's August 4th, 2026 at 1:02 p.m. and I'm calling the what we think is the final meeting of the mandatory minimum, Minnesota Task Force on Mandatory Minimum Sentences to order. Good afternoon, everybody. Don, would you please call the roll?
Shane Baker. Shane Baker is not here. Jeremiah Carlson.
I'm here.
Jeremiah Carlson is here. John Donovan.
Here.
John Donovan is here. Mark Hazy.
Here.
Mark Hazy is here. Dale Harris.
Here.
Dale Harris is here. Amber Johnson.
Here. Oh, no.
Amber Johnson is here. Kelly Mitchell.
Here.
Kelly Mitchell is here. Mark Osler.
Here.
Mark Osler is here. Nate Wrights.
Here.
Nate Wrights is here. Ken Sass.
Here.
Ken Sass is here. Nick Sasser. Nick Sasser is not here. Robert Stewart. Robert Stewart is not here. Ashley Stewart-Griffith.
Here.
Ashley Stewart-Griffith is here. We do have quorum, and I will watch for any of the others that join late.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is approval of the prior meeting minutes. We do have two sets of prior meeting minutes to approve. We have the July 2nd and the July 10th. You did receive both of those. You received the July 2nd prior to the July 10th meeting, or maybe it was on July 10th, and then you received the July 10th meeting minutes prior to today. I should say the draft meeting minutes. The July 2nd meeting minutes were not originally sent out as part of this packet, but again, as I say, you had them before and they were sent out today. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them. Does anybody have any corrections or additions or deletions or anything to the July 2nd or July 10th meeting minutes? Any corrections? If not, they will stand as approved as drafted. All right, seeing no corrections, the July 2nd, 2026 meeting minutes are approved as drafted, and the July 10th, 2026 meeting minutes are approved as drafted. Thank you, everybody. Any suggestions for changes on today's agenda? Especially keeping in mind this is the final final meeting. So if there's something you wanted to put on the agenda, now's the chance. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. All right, so the big item today is finalizing our policy recommendations. Well, I shouldn't say that's the big item. And really, so I had promised at the last meeting to give everybody a chance to sort of re-vote. And the reason for that is we had two members who were absent at the last meeting, and I did want to get their votes on the record, if you will. And I thought if we're doing that, then in fairness, it's something I should give anybody else an opportunity to change their votes. So I'm going to go through the four recommendations in general. And we do have now bill language from the revisor's office. If you have any specific questions on that, I unfortunately didn't get the cross-reference information to you, so as to let you know where to find these in the bill language. But recommendation one, I can tell you, is the last two sections in the bill primarily, and then there's quite a few what do they call those? Conforming amendments in different sections throughout. But the main the directive to the commission is in section 15, and then the repeal of 6911 is in section 16, and both of those are effective August 1st, 2029. But I should say the commission's deadline is August 1st, 2029. That section 15 is immediate. But the summary of recommendation number 1 is that the task force unanimously recommends that the legislature require the Sentencing Guidelines Commission to create, subject to specific legislative guidance with 6 tiers of weapons involvement, a penalty enhancement scheme in the sentencing guidelines to replace the existing mandatory minimum scheme for committing violent felonies with firearms or while using dangerous weapons. And that's, of course, the existing mandatory minimum scheme is Minnesota Statute 60911. So this is, any questions about this, particularly from those who were not at the last meeting? And are both members present who were not at the last meeting? Okay, so. All right, so I guess I would, it's not my intent to do a roll call since we already voted, but I guess at this point, I would open it up for people to change their votes or put their votes on the record if you were not here at the last meeting regarding recommendation number 1. So I guess I'll start with you, Judge Harris, since I can see you on the screen. Do you have any questions, or do you have a vote with respect to recommendation number 1?
I do not have any questions, and I would vote in favor.
Okay. Thank you, Judge Harris. And then, sorry, who was the other person? No, Mark was here. Jeremiah Carlson. Jeremiah, do you have any questions, or would you like to put your vote on the record with respect to recommendation number 1?
No, if I remember correctly, with this when we discussed it last time, we had some concerns or discussion in regards to like the parameters of those recommendations, or if we were going to send like some sort of ideology to that. Did we ever come to a conclusion with that?
The draft language is in there, and I'll just go over it. It's in the language that we got back from the reviser. Yeah, we could pull that up. I'm not logged in, so it would take a little bit for me to do it, but.
Yeah, let me get that pulled up if we want to skip me, and then I can, if other people know what they want to do, and then I'll pull that up and take a look at it quick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so far it's unanimous in favor. That's not putting any pressure on you. I'm just letting you know that's where we're at currently.
I just found it.
Yeah, I was gonna, we already voted on these for those of us that were in the last meeting, correct?
Yeah, so this is
I would still
this is
maintain
finalized.
then.
Yeah, this is a version. So I may be remembering this wrong. I may be getting my two June meetings or July meetings confused, but I believe this is a proposal that Dr. Stewart came up with at the last meeting, correct? So you wouldn't have been here for that. Was it the meeting before? Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right. You were there for that then. Yeah, so basically subdivision 2 is giving the commission the requirement to propose modifications to the sentencing guidelines to enhance presumptive sentences for individuals who commit violent felonies with firearms or while using dangerous weapons, and giving it the authority both to amend the presumptive disposition and to increase the length of the presumptive imprisonment, or both. And then subdivision 3 is really the guidance. Just saying that the commission has to understand that this is going to be replacing 60911, that it has to create its own list of violent felonies. It's not bound by previous lists. The only parameter that's given is the legislature's letting it know that it does not consider 5th degree controlled substance crime or it does not need to consider fifth degree controlled substance crime to be a violent felony, for example. And then D, under subdivision 3 parens D, I'm looking on lines 1429 and following, on the reviser's language. That's where it talks about these 6 different tiers of weapons involvement. And I think actually you may have missed the 6th tier. So that was proposed by Professor Osler to have the discharge of a firearm in the commission of a violent felony be the highest tier, and for that to be separated from mere use, which I think previously the previous draft had it combined. So, and the task force was unanimous in agreeing with that. So those are the 6 different tiers of weapons involvement in increasing order of severity and accordingly penalty. And then E is a directive to consider how and under what circumstances an accomplice's use of a firearm or dangerous weapon should increase the penalty for the defendant. And then F is just a directive against double counting. So if you've got if the enhancement factor is already figured in somehow into the penalty, it's not fair to figure it in again. So that's the purpose of E. So that's essentially the directive that you were asking about. The directive to the task force is in that form. I'm sorry, the directive to the commission. And then subdivision 4 and 5 really have to do with how it will take effect. Subdivision 5 is basically synchronizing the effective date of the new sentencing enhancements with the effective date of the repealer. So both will apply to crimes committed on or after August 1st, 2029, and to no other crimes. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you. That's what like I said, I felt like I was missing just a piece that I think you covered that. So
Yeah.
I would support that.
Okay. So you wish to register your vote in favor? All right.
Yep.
All right. So it is unanimous. So that's well, we'll get to the. Yeah, I should say at this point it's unanimous. I did say that people would have an opportunity to change their votes. So I'm going to wait a beat for anybody to speak up there. All right, so now we're going to move on to the second recommendation. Hearing no request to change votes. Second recommendation is removing nonviolent drug offenses from the firearm disqualifying crime of violence list. And those are 3 offenses that are currently listed that are authorized deferred prosecution under Chapter 152.18, which is 3rd degree controlled substance possession, 4th degree controlled substance possession, and 5th degree controlled substance possession. And then from that pattern, we extrapolated a few other offenses. 1st degree cannabis possession, which that crime didn't exist when the last time they updated this list in 2016. 1st degree cannabis cultivation. Now we're not including 1st degree cannabis sale because the sale crimes were never included on that list. We are including sale of a simulated controlled substance though, because that's actually it's not really a drug crime. It's pretending to sell drugs, but it's not actually selling drugs. And then the other 2 offenses that would be taken off the list would be tampering, stealing, or transporting anhydrous ammonia, or exposing a child or vulnerable adult to methamphetamine or related chemicals, or exposing a child to fentanyl. So all of these crimes have the following 2 characteristics in common. One is they all have statutory maximum penalties of 5 years or less. And 2 is none of them involves sale or manufacture or importation of a controlled substance. And those would be, it's not that there's consensus that all other drug crimes are violent felonies, but there's consensus that those are not. And that's the recommendation of taking those off the list, and that's why that was unanimous. So any questions about recommendation number 2?
Questions, and I would register my vote in favor.
All right. So Judge Harris, Judge Harris votes in favor, and Jeremiah Carlson. Jeremiah Carlson, are you still in the meeting?
Yep, sorry. Just looking over the document when they say that.
Oh, sure. Take your time.
Yep. And I remember we had the conversation on possession versus sales, correct?
Right. Say there are no sales being taken off the list, except for sale of a simulated controlled substance, which is, as I said, not really a drug crime. It'd be like if you're selling, I don't know, oregano and pretending that it's marijuana or something. You know, you're not really selling a drug.
So I guess I'll just go on the record and say that due to where the proposed language of like third degree possessions and fourth degree possessions we're saying those are no longer going to be eligible from the list.
Right.
And
And those were the ones that those are the legislatures made those eligible for first time offenders. Those are eligible for deferred prosecution under Chapter 152.18.
Mhm.
So the reasoning is clearly the legislature. It doesn't seem too threatened by those crimes, I guess, is one way to put it, and therefore it's not a huge leap to infer that they're not considered violent crimes by the legislature.
yeah, I'm just gonna have to go, like I said, with I know who chairs me in these committees and their perception and what we in the law enforcement community of what we look at for third and fourth and the nexus that we see with those things. I'm going to have to not support that recommendation because of where we drew the line there.
Okay. Okay, so that's a no vote from Jeremiah Carlson on recommendation number 2. Anybody else want to change their vote? Or I shouldn't say else. Anybody want to change their vote on recommendation number 2? And is it accurate? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just something I could see putting in the report. Is it accurate to say your only concerns are with those 2 crimes, third and fourth degree possession?
Correct.
Okay. All right, and so moving on then, hearing nobody wanting to change their vote, we'll move on to recommendation number 3. That's eliminating mandatory minimum for first violations of predatory offender registration. This was not unanimous. Ken Sass had some concerns about taking a position contrary to a position that, not to put words in your mouth, Ken, but to position that the Department of Public Safety might be taking in its legislative package. And I don't know if you've updated that. So there was one dissenting vote on this, but this was to endorse the 2022 recommendation of the Predatory Offender Statutory Framework Working Group that the legislature repeal the year and a day mandatory minimum penalty for first violations of predatory offender registration requirements and keep the mandatory minimum penalty for second violations, but reduce that from 2 years to a year and a day. Any questions about that? All right, hearing none. Judge Harris?
I have had a chance to review it, and I would support this one as well.
All right, so another vote in favor, and Jeremiah Carlson.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go no, just with, again, some of those concerns that I think Ken Sassa brought up, I think are valuable ones that should be listened to on it, so.
All right, so that's now 12-2. Anybody want to change their votes? What's that?
11-2.
I think it's 12-2. 12 to
10-1.
Oh, why does it say 11-1? I was going off of the draft. You're right, it's 11-2. Okay, so it was 10-1, not 11-1. Got it. So sorry, that's a vote of 11-2. So far it's 13-0, right? 12-1 and 11-2. All right, so recommendation number 4 is for those 3 mandatory minimums where there's waiver allowed and the prosecutor is the only party permitted to make a waiver motion. The recommendation is to change that to allow either party to make a waiver motion. Any questions or discussions on that?
No
Judge Harris,
questions.
I know you had spoken in favor of that before because you said it actually gave the judge a better record on which to make a decision.
That is correct, and I would vote yes.
Okay, so Judge Harris votes yes. Jeremiah Carlson?
Yeah, I would support this one.
All right. So that one is also unanimous. So recommendations number 1 and 4 are unanimous. Does anybody wish to change their vote? All right, so we're gonna, what's that?
Pointed at me.
Oh, yeah, so we're gonna close the roll on this now, and so those are the final votes of the task force. And that concludes agenda item number 4. So now moving on to review and approval of the final report. So you've, I guess, Julie, do you want to kind of give an overview of the report or any comments you have to make?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. A few things that I'm sorry didn't get passed along in the request for you to review, but this has not been copy edited in a thorough way. So you'll see things that are maybe not named the same consistently or spacing error, spacing things, grammatical things. That is going to go through a very extensive copy edit. So that was supposed to be conveyed to you, and I'm sorry that I didn't get that to you. That being said, there's also been some requests for some edits that have happened since this got sent out. And so there's a few sections that will be condensed a bit, and I can share those as we go through. But the other part too is that the appendix that was sent out in the email version didn't have a lot of detail. You probably would have to know the name of what we were going to attach. And so I can pull up anything if you have questions as we go, but the appendix is quite large. So those things couldn't be merged in until the final view, just based on some accessibility issues and other things to get it out in a timely manner. So maybe what I'll do is pull up the report. And before I do that, I just wanted to ask if anyone had any initial questions before we go through the report together.
I have one.
Sure.
I think on page 28 of the document, where it is listing all of the members, I think something got messed up with the statutory language because the retired judge position isn't listed, and that hurt my feelings.
Well, I'm glad you caught that. It isn't listed.
with the statutory language? I wonder if they were copying a different, what if they were copying the bill? Should have been a cut and paste.
Yeah. Let me pull that up. But I'm gonna write this down on my list that I have going.
I think the other ones were all correct, but I was going pretty quickly through it. I just
Okay.
happened to notice it.
All right. I am going to, let's do this, share this here. Okay. We've made a couple of revisions since we sent this out, but I'm gonna jump to 28. Anyway, we will change that, and sorry for any hurt feelings. You were not forgotten, very important, and glad you noticed that.
So I think we should all go around and say something nice about Judge Harris now.
Please don't.
Oh yeah, we did copy the paste this, but it maybe something got deleted. So, okay, well, noted, we'll do that.
Well, and let me just make a sort of a side comment that's related to that and maybe the cause of the problem, but there are a number of references to the charter statute as being like a Senate file or something like that, and it's the proper citation is to the bill. So, or to the law that was passed, which is, see, I've got it somewhere, but I can send that to you, but pretty much anytime it cites to the charter statute, it should cite to 2026 Minnesota laws, chapter 35, article 2, section 26. And it's possible that it was citing, there's a number of references to Senate bills, so it's possible it was citing to the Senate bill.
Okay.
It looks like this for engrossment.
Yeah, so several different versions as it goes along. And speaking of hurt feelings, we don't want to call it a Senate bill when it was also passed by the House.
Okay, thank you. So the first section we, Nate, kind of put together from what Wilder had done, and we changed it from an executive summary to a summary of recommendations because it seemed to describe this part the best.
Before we get
Yeah.
to that, can I just say something on the I don't know what you call it, the about this report page?
Yep.
I had suggested that we put in the task force, what's his committee
Names.
members, that should just be task force members, but yeah, I'd suggested that we put in the names and the titles. So the other table doesn't put in the titles, which is fine, but I mean, this is, you know, not to puff up everybody's ego here, but I mean, this is a pretty impressive group of people and pretty impressive positions that they hold. And I think just to put that on there is really important for what comes up next, given that 2 of the 4 recommendations are unanimous, and I would consider all of them to be consensus recommendations. And given both the impressive credentials and the diversity of perspectives that those credentials represent, I think it'd be helpful, if maybe even 2 columns, but if there's some way you could fit that on that second page there after the title page, that would be great.
Sure. Okay.
Do we all need to email you our titles then?
I think I got them all.
Yeah, I think that.
I did a web search on everybody and found your titles.
You've been stalking us?
I have research.
Okay. So here's the summary of recommendations, which highlights the 4 items that we went over. I think what we need to add to that is the bill language, the numbers. I need to add the list of in each section, it will match up to what the bill language says, the lines, but you already sent me, Nate, so that will be added to this section, as I think what your email to me requested that we add that in these, both here and in the final recommendations section.
What's that?
The numbers that you had sent me so that they correspond with the, let me see that,
Oh, the bill numbers?
the
Yeah.
bill numbers.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessary here, but
Okay.
definitely everywhere else it reference. I mean, if you click on that link, it does go to the actual session law. So, or the correct chapter. But I was thinking on that fourth paragraph there, it describes the recommendations as 4 consensus recommendations. So given the final votes, I would still think that's true. I don't know. It's 10-2 consensus. It feels like consensus to me. I don't know if anybody objects to that, but I would pretty much keep this language as it is. Just change 3 of the consensus recommendations to 2 of the consensus recommendations are unanimous and 2 are nearly so. But you know, be happy to have discussion on that point if you think that's an unfair characterization of the final votes. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about it. Just give people a chance to reconcile that.
And the numbers of, what the votes were will be updated. I'm not gonna do it now, just
Sure.
for purpose of time, but, is there anything else in this summary section that people have feedback on or want to discuss?
Just one thing real quick, are we, any of those, no, I think I've been a part of some of the last task force stuff and we kind of put in there where the non-unanimous ones were kind of what that sticking point was. Are we planning to add that then into this report? And if so, where would we add that?
Yeah, I think they're mentioned in this section and in the other sections, and then there's parts, I'll point them out when we get to them, but the discussion pieces are in there. But yeah, I want to make sure that you're comfortable with how they're highlighted. Nate, you had put some pieces in here about, I'm trying to find the one. So this one, the discussion I thought had. Yeah, if it needs to be honed in a little bit more, then we can add to that language.
Okay.
And if not here, certainly in the more detailed discussion. I mean, this is intended to be kind of a punchy
Overview. Yeah.
overview. I'm thinking of my state representative when I'm looking at this, and what will he read before he gets bored? I guess is my
The other thing I should mention is that we have the ability to link, and you'll see that it was already started to different parts of the report. So in this discussion part 2, to Nate's point, if we want to keep this brief, we can move it to the other section just to have somebody be able to, see a little bit more detail if they're interested in those pieces. We don't want to have too many links, so it's just too busy and gets confusing, but I think that because things are intertwined with each other, it's helpful to be able to bring people to the certain appendices, that part of the appendices that we're talking about and those things. So if there's something that you think would be helpful having a link to, then you can note it now or let me know.
Well, Julie, do you think it'd be helpful to have a link to the bill language for each of these, or is that something that you think would be more appropriate for the fuller discussion later on?
Thinking of the different types of readers, I could see it being helpful, and for some people, the bill language might, that is the most important part for them to see. So we could link it to that. I know that's part of what we were going to add is the numbers that you gave me. So that the bill language matches the recommendations. So that was kind of our plan, but it doesn't get to the part of, where there was any sort of dissent or just the votes went down. But But I like links when I'm looking through a report because I think it helps, there's a lot of information here, so it just brings you back to where that is. So we can plan on doing it and just making it so we have to make sure that, it's accessible and those sort of things, but I don't think that it hurts. People don't have to link on it if they don't want, not to click on it if they don't want to. All right, if there's nothing else with this main section, we can come back to it because I think, as Nate mentions, might be the part that people read. The main gist of what you all did, all the work we did. So we have some introduction pieces here. Brought in some literature from what was either discussed in prior meetings or that we pulled in from some of our background research, and just gave information about like how the sentencing guideline framework works, or kind of over arching things between the two guidelines and the mandatory minimums. Right now, this was one of those places where it will link you to the overview, and that illustration in the appendices is being revamped to match a report that was done by Kelly. Was that at the Robina Institute, or it was 2025, right? Anyway, a report that is going to be updated. So what you have in the appendices is not exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be more accurate, I guess, because what we had put together had some things that were not true. But this is a way of giving an overview of how the sentencing guideline framework works, and then a little bit of information about what types of departures there are, and getting into the mandatory minimum framework. And so we did try to provide a workflow for this, and I think that is another thing that we will be working with the chair and vice chair, and we can do it now if you want, but just making sure that this is correct, because I guess it is not. So do we want to stop here and talk about this, or do we feel like we can do that offline with the? Anyway,
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I know what you meant, but in the actual flow chart, if you could just scroll up a little bit.
Yep. Scroll up or
Or
down.
I'm sorry, go down to the
Yeah.
more of the flow chart.
Okay.
I mean, I think the idea of a flow chart is, sorry, I should probably have my mic on. The idea of a flow chart is if you don't know, you can just sort of look and figure it out. And I think I know what you're getting at, but I'm a little confused where it says departure permitted, no. And then that leads you to dispositional departures as well as imposed mandatory minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, logically, you would think if it says no, you can't go to them.
Right.
Well, that's certainly legally the correct answer.
Yeah.
Even if we know there's in practice departures.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no departure legally
Mhm.
permitted.
I mean, I think it's just big thing in error.
Right.
But
And this flow chart was sort of my thought of the Wilder team of just having something for someone to review it. And we tried to kind of piece it together
Yeah.
with knowing that it's so maybe we don't want one, that's fine.
it could be a little Easter egg for people reading it and say, you see how complicated these are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
think it's helpful.
No, I do too. I mean, like all he's saying is if you look at departure permitted, that question.
Yeah.
And then no goes down to a little line there, or like a two branch off. It should just go straight over to impose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mandatory minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there shouldn't be a connection over to the dispositional departure box. Like this is presumptively the mandatory,
Yeah.
right?
And so you wouldn't be able to have it.
So you wouldn't be able to have a departure theoretically, even though we know they happen.
Yeah.
Or even though we know they might happen. But there were some other things on this one that I was a little confused about. Well, so I don't know if you want to talk through them now or if you want to wait.
Wait for,
I mean, if
Do you want to do it now or do you want to do it offline?
I don't know, I mean, it's the task force's report, so.
all right, let's do it.
Rob, did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think it does potentially make sense to at least have like a dashed line going from the no to the departure area, in part because that's one of the reasons or the motivations behind some of the decisions that I think we've made. The confusing nature of whether or not, you know, things are mandatories versus soft mandatories or whatever, and then maybe including like a star or a note or something to that dash line to indicate that this is happening, but it's not supposed to be happening. And then the other adjustment I would suggest is instead of splitting dispositional departure and durational departure right off the bot or right off the top, like I would maybe have an arrow that goes to departure and then splitting dispositional versus durational. So that the choice is between no departure versus departure, and then okay, departure, what kind of departure?
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That might be easier for the dash line too, because it happens in both. Here as written, it goes to just dispositional, but it happens with durational departures too, where sentences are imposed that shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like having it. I think it's valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, I did have a question a couple pages back. There's like from pages, I don't know, 8 to 10 maybe, or 11. There's the font change or the paragraph spacing changes, all the formatting is different and there are no headings. And I don't know what's happening with that section. Is that
So it's probably been updated since you saw that. I think that was a piece that the editing committee worked on, and we did not edit it because we didn't know if we were supposed to. And so since then, I can get there in a minute, but we've moved it down. So it'll be on the screen here.
okay?
This just happened this morning. So
I got it. Okay. Sure.
so that, but thanks for mentioning that, Nate, because yeah, that part, and then we just want to have it reviewed by the editors just to make sure. So I'll send that out to the three of you to make sure it captures that. But that part was, that's why. It
All right,
was moved.
So if anybody is concerned about like, hey, what's going on with all this post-meeting editing? This is supposed to be our report. I would invite you to talk to me and ask to get on the editing team, because we can have a few more people on the editing team before we run into an open meeting law violation. So it just has to be below a quorum. So if and right now we have 3, so we could have 3 more potentially. I'm not saying that's a good thing or that you want to, but I mean, if there's any lack of trust or any lack of transparency with, or concern about the lack of transparency with what's going on here, I invite you to step up, and I'd be happy to have you on the editing team.
I would ask, but not because I worry about transparency. I just like editing.
You just like editing? Okay. All right.
And I can say that, again, no one's looked at it except for me. So, but the part that we're talking about right here, I have on this version, so we can at least look at it. But it has not been vetted or approved by anyone. So but at least the look of it can be, you can see how it's gonna flow with this because we've moved it.
And I'll say that I was the one that asked for it to be moved because it made sense to me to have sort of how does sentencing work in Minnesota, and then how do mandatory minimums, what are mandatory minimums, and how do they intersect with the guidelines? And then this is all, how do the mandatory minimums play out in practice? So it was like, I thought that was a better flow for
Absolutely.
the order of the items. So that's what I suggested, and that's why she moved it before we got here.
Love it.
Do you want to hear more about the chart?
Sure, yeah, let's go to the chart. I
I
do.
don't know if anyone else has their hand up. So, looking at the chart, I would say like starting way at the top where it's felony conviction, sentencing guidelines, you determine the presumptive sentence first. So that box is way down below. But I would move that up. So you get that is your starting point. And then you determine next box down would be, does a mandatory minimum apply? And if no, correct, the guidelines would control, right? If yes, there's actually two answers because if the longer of the two could apply if it's a prison sentence already. So if the guidelines are longer, then they're going to apply. If the mandatory minimum's longer, it's going to apply. But if the guidelines call for probation, it's going to flip it to prison as the presumptive sentence. So there's like two things that the mandatory could override. And I don't know how to put that in a box. So I'm just gonna be honest there.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that gets you to which sentence are we dealing with, right? And so then that presumptive sentence box goes away because you've already moved that out. Then you would look at, is a departure permitted? And that's where we get the no, yes. So if no departure, the only way of no departure is permitted is if it's a mandatory. So then that goes over to impose the mandatory. And then if a departure is permitted, yes, then I think we add in the box that Rob said. Is there actually a departure or whatever, yes or no? And then split it out the way that he was describing, where we can then go to, yes goes to dispositional departure. Dispositional and durational, no goes to no departure. And then down to final sentence.
No.
Easy.
Yeah. It made sense, and I will see if we'll be able to look at it. The editing group will be able to look at it again to make sure.
You know, I was gonna start to like give you, since I couldn't like do anything on the paper, I was like, I can't even like figure out how to tell you.
Yeah.
What would
No,
be
I'm
good.
glad that you waited, because that would have been.
But this discussion was great because I didn't even think about what Rob said, like that actually helps a lot. So, yeah.
Thank you. Great. So we'll keep it in, we'll make it correct and get another view on it to make sure it's all makes sense. And then here is this, what we're calling sidebar. The benefit of a sidebar is just so it kind of stands out a little bit. This was the part that Nate was just mentioning where the font might have been different and where I kind of took a stab at it, but there is not a sidebar right now. So when there's notes saying copy editing or admin, that's notes for the internal Wilder team. But basically we took that part and sort of narrowed it down to highlight some like pieces that Shane had put together for us. So this just summarizes that. Again, Shane, especially, I'll send this over to you to review and see if there are a couple things that I wanted to make sure I didn't mess up when I was trying to summarize it. And also just other things to think about. But this kind of summarize, I'm not gonna say summarizes again, but if I do, I apologize. This is a highlight of that piece and will become a sidebar that will stand out.
I love the headings. I think that really is going to help the reader like pick out what, because you're encapsulating what some of the issues are, which I think Shane had described really well.
Very well.
And I love the headings to like draw the reader's
Call it
attention
out.
to that.
I was about to say the same thing.
Mhm.
So then that's that part. If we want to pause and I can also just quickly send this over to everyone. I have it in a standalone document, but if we're okay with the editing group looking at it, then I can move on to the next section. Anyone have? All right, we'll move to the next section, which is the approach and methodology part. You all accomplished quite a bit, and there was many different ways that we were wanting to capture it. So we've moved things. Here's the list of the task force membership, and then also the some of the pieces around. Sorry, I got to move here. What the different subcommittees were responsible for. And then I have notes in here just about for internal stuff about making sure things are accessible. So you can ignore those. But so this just kind of highlights what the committees were about. And then also looks, table 3 is about the duties and who oversaw or at least took a lead on addressing some of the each individual duty. And this was, we kind of matched it back. I mean, I think in some ways, you know, collecting and analyzing data, you know, there might have been stuff that the legal analysis group did. So if you saw anything in here, I don't know if anyone had any additional feedback on here, but this was just us going back and looking at the notes and matching it up. But I think this section is just to convey all the work that you have done. And then there's a part in the appendix too that talks about that. And then we just call out a call out box about which statutes you focused on and, you know, some of what you had decided around the mandatory minimums for the controlled substances offenses. Any questions or?
Is it worth putting, what is it, 624, 712 with the violent crimes for felon in possession in there too? That has the list, right? With people who are prohibited?
Yes.
624, 712.
We had that in our initial.
You did.
part.
So the mandatory minimum is in 60911,
Correct.
right?
Right.
And then the statute that determines who can't possess weapons any longer is 624 or whatever it is, 712, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Do you want to?
We had it in, I think, I don't remember all the reasons we removed it, but we can move it back in if.
I don't have any strong feelings. I just know
Okay.
since that's when we have a recommendation for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think these were when we decided what mandatory minimums we were going to look at, these are the mandatory minimums we decided to look at. And I would probably promote 243-166 above the 152s just because we were kind of looking at it in terms of numbers and that was the second or third, depending on whether you give 60911. 60911 by itself got first and second place, but 243-166 was third, as I recall, and then followed by the drugs.
Okay. And then we talk about the convening and discussion issues. So again, that's where, when we can get there in a while, but we're gonna have the slide decks available, reports that you presented on or shared. All those things will be in the appendices. And when we get there, you'll see that there's also a summary of what happened in each meeting. which is different than this summary. This summary is a very brief summary. The other one has more details, but wanted to underscore the data that was reviewed and some of the outcomes that came out of each of the meetings. Okay, if I'm going to, am I going too fast or tell me to slow down? And then we talk about what Ashley put together for us is how we evaluated the current mandatory minimum sentences using those 7 domains. And so this is highlighted and described definitions of what each of those domains are, and then how each of the 3 subcommittees were responsible for discussing different sections. And then we, as a in the appendices, have that grid in there that we have updated. And I think it's almost complete. There's a couple of places where it needs to be, I think, the public safety parts, but we can look at that in a minute. But yeah, is there anything about this section that we should add to, or does it feel okay? I have to hit save. Just realize I haven't done that in a minute. Okay. Yeah, and then further, what kind of data and topics we looked at. So we have, looked at information on departures. Now, the part about the data on financial impacts, I know that we need to take that out of the fiscal note. We are going to not include at all. I hadn't deleted that out of the appendix. But do we want to mention that we looked at data on financial impacts since we did, or is this not something to highlight in the bullet because we're not going to be talking about it in the appendix?
Do you have thoughts on that? I think we had kind of discussed, I think primarily based on your concerns, that just there was too much speculation to really put it in there, but it probably is appropriate to say that we considered it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, well, I'll keep it there. Then we talk about the consensus building and how we wrote the recommendations. It's really just the process that we use there. And then the gathering stakeholder input. So we did work with MNJRC on this just to make sure they're fine with our summary of what their report was. But they had their report that they presented here. So we highlighted about the key things that emerged and mentioned it in the body, and then we get into the recommendation. So before we go into that section, I just wanted to see if there's any thoughts or feedback or concerns about those sections, about the process of the work that you all did. All right, so recommendations, we took Nate's, I forgot what the Abel, Baker and Charlie, yeah. And now they're ABC, and wanted to make a sidebar. The sidebar got lost when we were doing the formatting. So we can, a couple thoughts about this. We can have this be the introduction of the recommendation section, which further illustrates what I'm just going to call Shane put together for us in the introduction section. This can stay here, or also we could move it up to the recommendation section. But either way, we want to have it stand out a bit so that it's more of a sidebar or a call out. I don't want to say box because it's larger than a box, but this will be formatted in a way to highlight what this scenario is trying to demonstrate is how, the guidelines, lead to, don't necessarily, the net effect of the mandatory minimums are not always what this task force decided that they should be given the type of offense. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts about either the content of this or where it is positioned, but I'll just pause there for a minute.
Just a technical thing. I think defendant C was, I think he was committing an aggravated robbery rather than an aggravated assault.
Okay.
I knew there was something wrong with that.
Yeah. But the other thing is just if I think if it could just be maybe a little more punchy somewhere that like you got the shared facts, but the differences are B is like A except a much longer criminal history, and C is like A except a much more serious offense. And yet A is the one who's facing the most additional consequence because of the mandatory minimum.
Okay. So both in font and maybe just adding some language that we can bold or something, but noted.
Yeah, we're just right up top. I mean, it could be under shared facts, differences or something. I don't know, just something right about the table.
What about just amending the last sentence of the shared facts, saying everything else about the three is assumed to be the same except for compared to defendant A, defendant B has several additional felonies, and compared to defendant A, defendant C has a more severe present offense or whatever. Or maybe just put that at the, in those boxes,
Mm-hmm.
like in the table itself.
Yeah. I'm not good on the spot, so I'm just gonna say add language. And then we could do it right under defendant. In terms of new offense, maybe just say like scenario or something like that, or something within the box. I'll play around with it. Okay. Does everyone feel like it belongs here? Like it has a place in the recommendations section, given how that other call out box is going to be positioned in the introduction?
I mean, it really only pertains to recommendation number 1. So you could put it under the discussion on recommendation number 1, which is in my mind, the most significant recommendation.
Because I was struggling with where should I go. It didn't seem to be in the right spot, but you're right. That relates mostly to number 1. So maybe there's a way to format it so that it's somehow associated with that.
Sure. And keep it in this section, just make it. Okay.
Yeah, just put it under recommendation 1. And
Because you have at the end of the recommendation 1, see the sidebar.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's connecting. Maybe you lose that sentence because you're able
Yep.
to like put it over there somewhere. Yeah.
Great. Very helpful.
Just one other thing, and it's small, but maybe for the assault, instead of no physical harm, no physical assault, no harm inflicted, and then it just sort of mirrors the statutory language a little better.
Where was that?
It's in like the box for new offense, 2nd degree assault, threatening another with a firearm, maybe no harm inflicted.
oh yeah, because technically it is. Well, it depends what you mean by physical assault.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little cleaner than that they didn't do anything.
Yeah,
no harm
Inflicted.
inflicted. Okay.
or you just say no harm. Well, no. No physical harm, I guess. Could be emotional harm.
Not assault though.
No, but I mean, you'd say no physical harm.
Sure.
Because, yeah, people might take umbrage with saying that that's not harmful, but it's
Yeah.
not physically harmful.
No bodily harm, then it mirrors the statute.
Sure, you could say
No
that.
bodily harm? Okay,
Sure.
thanks.
I think some of the statute language is like demonstrable bodily harm or kind of that low level of any.
It's infliction of bodily harm.
Demonstrable is just for 4th degree assault.
Yeah.
So, I think.
It's not in the just definition of a regular assault.
Okay.
I also thought demonstrable was in the robbery statute, which is not, we're referring to the aggravated robbery.
No, I don't think so. I think there's,
I
I
don't know.
think it's infliction of bodily harm. Or use of a firearm or something that looks like a firearm.
It's inflicts bodily harm. In aggravated robbery.
Should I add?
I mean, it's, that definition is still correct.
Okay.
I have a real technical question, but all of the degrees, like 2nd degree assault, 1st degree aggravated, should there be a dash and should it be the number? Because I know that that needs to be cleaned up in the rest of the body, but just for consistency's sake, do we do like 1st dash degree or do we do FIRST degree? It looks,
I think there should be a dash, and I think whether you want to make it a number or not is just be consistent. But I do not like superscript.
I know that just happened when I added the dash, so
No,
we will do no.
that is only a
superscript.
thing because Microsoft says it's a thing.
And they also beat it out of lawyers when they're in law school. I had many markups on my papers for
For superscript.
superscript. Yeah, I had to fix it.
And you can tell where stop automatically making superscripts. It's like, I'm just gonna keep doing it.
All right. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if you're ready for more feedback.
Sure.
So on recommendation 2 on discussion theme, I would just kind of copy the style that you did on recommendation number 3, where you said one member voted no on this recommendation because. I would say one member voted no on this recommendation. And then you could say because he objected to removing 3rd and 4th degree possession. And I don't know if how you'd feel about letting us, go on and say, but he would have supported keeping, removing the other offenses from the list. But did support removing the other offenses from the list. Because I mean, if you're willing to let us put that on there, I think that's a very powerful thing to be able to say that it was entirely unanimous to remove 6 of these 8 offenses.
Yeah, I'd be agreeable to that, to just toss in there that it was just the 3rd and the 4th degree were the hangups on the yes vote for me.
Okay, thank you. That might be maybe good to say one peace officer member too, just to give it some kind of context, because I think that'll be important for the legislature to know that fact.
Okay. Thanks.
And along those same lines, on the discussion under recommendation number 3, could we just change that from 1 member to 2 members? Jeremiah, it sounded like you kind of were adopting Ken's reason for voting no on that. So right now it says 1 member voted no on this recommendation. I'm sorry, it's showing up on my screen, so I'm thinking it's showing up on everybody's screen. But right now it says at the bottom of recommendation number 3, 1 member voted no on this recommendation because the Bureau of Criminal well, that should say Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, not Bureau of Criminal Affairs. Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, BCA, plans to submit its own statutory language change regarding predatory offender registration. Jeremiah, would you be okay if we just change that to 2 members?
Yep, that would work for me.
Okay. And that accurately reflects your objections or your reason for voting?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Bureau of Criminal Affairs. It's interesting. What would they do?
I think I was watching some Richard Gere movie. I think it was
Internal Affairs?
Internal Affairs, yeah.
Uh,
I was. That must be what it was.
Okay, anything else on the recommendations? Okay, so we've got our discussion on the crime-free off-ramp. They're under other significant discussions. Just noted that it was tabled. I'm fine with that. I don't think it's necessary to bring any more or less emphasis on that point. One other thing I would say, well, we already noted the bill, but on the references, and I'm sorry if I'm rushing ahead, but
No.
Is if we could put in I think that's a good place to put in the final report of the Predatory Offender Statutory Framework Working Group from 2022. Because I think it would be unwieldy to put it in as an appendix. It's a very long report and has a number of its own appendices, but I think just referencing it so they can go to it, since we talk about it a couple of times.
I added it it will be in there, so.
It will be in the references.
It will be in the references, yeah. It's just, this one was incomplete, so it's gonna be updated in the final version, and I put that in there, but I'll make sure.
Okay.
I was gonna say confirm, but I think I did that last week.
Anything else you wanted to highlight on in the report? We've got some appendices there.
Yeah, the
Wanna kind of
appendices.
Walk us through those.
Yeah, I'll just, so we have the task force legislation, which I'll make sure is the correct, not the Senate version, but the, whatever you told me, I wrote it down. Citation should be to the law, not the
Session law.
the session law. So I'll make sure that's updated, to reflect that, and then the bill language, so here's the question, do you want the bill language to be the first item in the appendix?
I think so. I
Okay.
think that makes the most sense. It is PDF, and the revisor doesn't use a word processor. They use their own thing. I mean, I guess it's a word processor, but it's not compatible with anything else. So I don't know if you could put in a PDF just as is. It is.
That's it.
I think it's legal. If I'm not mistaken. Usually they come out as legal.
I think we should be able to do it, or we could convert it. I think the main thing is just that it's accessible.
Mhm. I don't know why it wouldn't be accessible. It's just PDF format. PDF format's normally accessible, right? Just text PDF.
The accessibility that we're talking.
The accessibility that we're talking about is digital accessibility. The state of Minnesota wants all PDFs that are published on websites to be able to be read by a screen reader. And that's the digital accessibility that we're discussing. So
it would be.
There's a process to make a PDF digitally accessible. I do that for all of our documents prior to every meeting.
Okay.
So we can find out between our people, my people at Wilder, and work with Don. But anyway, I think we can at least get it embedded in there, and yeah, that shouldn't be any problem. And I'll move it up to the first position.
Okay.
The other things that we have in here are, and this is one of the ones that that's been updated since you've seen it. So it's not formatted or anything, but it's referenced in the body about what the sentencing guideline overview is. And so this comes from a 2025 report. And we'll just definitely reference it because we're using it. And this will explain kind of the severity levels and everything. What I had put in there was something I tried to make from that, not thinking like, oh, we can just put that link in there and just embed it in here. So disregard that, what you have in there, know that this is going to change, and then I'll highlight it for the editing group to know that that is one piece that has been replaced from what was sent out last week.
And I'm gonna head off, Nate. This excerpt is from the 2025 sentencing guidelines grid because the 2026 one changed a lot.
Yeah.
Really
different. I looked at it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah.
And so I was like, for the sake of someone learning how the guidelines work, I didn't feel it was necessary to try to create the 2026 excerpt, but you can override that if you want to.
I do like the new example offenses better. Maybe
Oh,
we should
looked at that. I thought I looked at that. This is just two of the rows.
Oh, it's just two of the rows.
Just rows
that's
7
fine.
and 8, just to show the different, like all the different components of a grid are there,
I see.
except for the new custody status
Mhm.
bar. But
Okay, sure.
so if you want to change that, you can.
No.
The report I gave you to pull this from isn't public, so that's why we can't cite to it. It doesn't help anyone.
Okay. So that's in there. And again, this is one of those places where it links down to the section if somebody is wondering about sentencing guidelines and wants a visual. And then here's more information. I know we have a key data presented above, so I don't know if this is repetitive and we don't want to put it in there, but this is more just about who presented and includes guests. So it's a bit more detailed than the table above in the main body. I'm just going to kind of scan through that and stop me if you have any feedback. And then we just did, we looked at literature based on the domains that Ashley put together and just wanted to look at some different things that came up as we reviewed that. So this is, it used to be in the body, but before most of you saw it, we moved it into an appendices section, just thinking that some people might be interested in that, but we didn't do an extensive literature review or anything. We just kind of pulled some stuff up in the beginning. So that is in there. And then we also looked at what you all put together in terms of the 7 domains and kind of where things got rated. So I think there was a couple of places where we might have. And Mark, I got your update since you sent it to me early this week or late last week, so I can embed it in here. But This is a
Okay,
really
great.
big, long table.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, I think it does show how things were assessed, but, it's hard to get all on one page, we can't get it on one page, so it's multiple
Right.
pages. But each page has a header. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone was exhausted reading it. We put it in there, for the purpose of showing how people, assessed the domains. And that's what this is.
I wonder if I don't know, I was struggling too. I don't know what your format folks, if they have any suggestions, but I just wonder if maybe some of the rows should be, like each page or something.
Yeah, we could do it we'll work on the formatting on that. 'Cause I
Mhm.
was exhausted just scanning or just scrolling.
And I think you already flipped the orientation of the page for these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make the type really tiny so no one can read it.
Yeah, so I mean, if you do it on your computer, you can zoom in, but if it's printed, you can't see it. Yeah, I think we can figure out something, I mean, maybe it is transposing it, but anyway, that section's in there. Sounds like we can keep it there. Then we have, information about the departure data. We are not going to include the prison bed information. So we'll remove that.
What's the departure data gonna be?
Let's pull that up.
That your first data?
Let's say, is that the January data report? Because I was wondering if we should just include that.
That was this. This is the. Okay, oh wait, sorry, this is one of the ones. That's not the one you just asked about. So
Well, there's also an appendix on racial and ethnic patterns.
there's lots let me just pull up my attachments here. So attachments, we have, but not all of these are linked in there, but because we have the bill final language. These up. There was. This
You're not
one
able to
that's
see it.
up here. Oh, you're not seeing it, sorry. I'm sharing the wrong thing. Okay. Share. This.
Well, that's the thing from September, the mandatory minimum catalog.
Yep. So that was one of the ones that we were gonna do, and we were gonna do these in order. If there's a date for the task force, we were gonna do it, the most recent one first, and then the ones that follow. The latter ones later. That was another one. You also did the 609. The history that I think that you did in the fall.
Okay,
So that was one of them.
it'd be hard to make accessible.
Did you already, Don, did you make any of these PowerPoints accessible from the beginning when they were shared at the meeting?
I know I've done some of them, but I
Okay.
don't know if I've gotten all of them.
Okay. I'll double check with you which ones they are, but regardless, if, I'm assuming, I mean, if we want these, we'll need the PowerPoint version probably, since we just have the PDF.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm assuming that the group wants this on here as in the appendix, I should say.
Is that?
This is the history of 6/9/11, so it
Oh,
sort of
gotcha.
shows how it evolved since 1967 or what.
This one. And then there's also this one that was shared at one of the meetings,
That one?
history of mandatory minimum
Is that
penalties.
from you, Mark Osler?
I thought this was from Mark.
Is
That
that
was an
what we got
excerpt
from New York?
Yeah, I think that was an excerpt from the New York.
From the New York report, yeah.
That's where the light kind of went on when I read that
Yeah.
about the sentencing guidelines. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
why would you need mandatory minimum if you had sentencing guidelines?
Yeah. It was a good find.
And then Julia sent Don the PowerPoints that you have made accessible now from
Yes,
Julia.
that one is
So we
accessible.
have, yeah, so we have Julia's presentations in the appendix, and they are ready to be, they're accessible. We're gonna say something. Oh,
Do you have the Nate's memo from January 7th, 2026? That has the data pertaining to mandatory minimums, and I think we looked at that a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking that that was the other document I was wondering about was the January.
not this one, not the fiscal note. So that one we don't.
The one from January 7th is posted online, so we did go through that one. It should be digitally accessible.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll make sure.
I can email it to you right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty, it's the links I should have named better when I was doing, but there's all of these different links in here. So we have the mandatory memo, we're taking that fiscal one out. The racial and ethnic patterns of the departures from Rob stuff is in there. How they minimum shape charging and plea bargaining from April. And then, so yeah, I'll make sure that January, thank you for, if you want to send it, that's great, but I think I have it in there.
Well, you probably want to get it from Don if he already made it digitally
Yeah.
accessible.
This is true. Yeah, actually. Well, at least you'll know what it looks like.
So, yeah, I'll get it from Don. I'm going to stop this sharing. Am I sharing? Yeah, I am sharing. Here's this. Can't find my stop sharing button. Oh, there it is. It's over here. Okay, stop. So then what we will do is update all of the voting and then all the pieces about the flow chart and the other recommendations of the other things that we have talked about. Add John to the editing review team. And I think the aim would be, and then make sure that all of the appendices are in there in that order, with the bill starting first. And then just kind of do it by meeting, with the most recent meeting first, and then the MNJRC report, I was just gonna have be the last part of it, just because it's the longest. And it will also be linked to where we reference it in the body, so people can get to it really quickly, because it's a great report.
Yeah.
In terms of, well, before I get into the logistics, are there other thoughts, feedback, things that you want to see in the appendix that you can't tell if they are just because they're worded strangely in your, you don't have access to the links? Are there other things that you want to see in the appendix before we talk about the timeline for getting this back to you? Okay.
So I'm going to entertain a motion. I get at this point to approve the task force's final report to the legislature, subject to final edits by the editing committee and subject to final typographical and copy edits by Wilder Research, to be submitted to the legislature no later than August 15th, 2026.
I would so move.
All right, we have a motion by John. Is there a second?
I second. This is Mark.
All right, second by Mark Osler. Any discussion on the motion? Anybody who is so excited by that process that they want to jump on board the editing committee? All right, any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, Don, will you take the roll?
Shane Baker,
Approve, yes.
Shane Baker, yes. Jeremiah Carlson,
Yes.
Jeremiah Carlson, yes. John Donovan,
Yes.
John Donovan, yes. Mark Hazy,
Yes.
Mark Hazy, yes. Dale Harris,
Yes.
Dale Harris, yes. Amber Johnson,
Yes.
Amber Johnson, yes. Kelly Mitchell,
Yes.
Kelly Mitchell, yes. Mark Osler,
Yes.
Mark Osler, yes. Nate Wrights,
Yes.
Nate Wrights, yes. Ken Sass,
Yes.
Ken Sass, yes. Nick Sasser is not present. Robert Stewart,
Yes.
Robert Stewart, yes. Ashley Stewart's Griffith,
Yes.
Ashley Stewart's Griffith, yes. That is a unanimous vote for the personnel present.
All right, thank you all. Yes, so you wanted to talk about sort of,
Yeah, timing wise, so I'm gonna send Shane right now that one section to look at, but then what my plan would be is to get something to you. Okay, so do you want the appendices all embedded before you review it?
I know,
Okay,
I think so.
so then I have to check with our editing, with our folks about that, but I would aim to get something to you. I guess I'll have to confirm, but I'm just gonna say Friday and hope that it's Thursday. I just don't have any, I don't know what people are doing with the, it's very, very involved to do the copy edit plus the merging. So the other question is that the copy editing that we're doing, I'm assuming you want to review, you want it to be copy edited too. You don't want to.
Well, I mean, okay, maybe we can have a meeting offline, but I mean, it occurs to me that one thing we want to do is review the content of the report.
Mhm.
And the other thing we want to do is look at the final PDF version, which is, I'm assuming that's going to be like, for example, the first version that has the reviser's language in that, since that's in PDF format, and I don't think you're going to break that. So maybe we do it in a two-part process where we look at the sort of Word document first and finalize that, and then we look at the PDF with all the appendices and finalize that.
That would give it to you sooner. So,
Okay.
yeah. So then I think what would happen is after you review the Word version, then we could go in and we will copy edit, do a final copy edit of things. In the meantime, I'm gonna fix up stuff around like the second, some of the wording in there that I can do as I'm reviewing it, but it's gonna go through I'm not copy editing, it goes through our copy edit process after you guys look at it, so that if you add anything, that will also be copy edited. So, I'm just gonna say by Friday, but I'll let you know about Thursday. So I'll send an email out to Shane and the three of you with a timing as soon as I find out from, because there's some formatting that I know we want to have happen. I mean, if you're, I guess, again, okay with the sidebar just being noted that it's going to be there, then I can get it to you quicker. But okay, so the Word version, I'll just say will go to you by Thursday. And then the PDF version, I would love to have it done midweek. But I guess it depends on when you guys are going to have time to look at it. So that's probably a better thing to say. If I give it to you by Thursday, when can you get it back to me?
Yeah, I mean, we have a conference in Albuquerque at the end of next week, so we will be probably reviewing it in our hotel rooms, but
when's your,
well, we'll work with you.
okay, I mean,
Just be aware that we're not going to be at our desks.
okay. So the Word version, then if I give it to you Thursday, then when can I'll take a look at it.
Probably right away.
Okay.
Yeah, more detail than anyone needs. Nate and I have our presentation due on Friday that we're giving next week.
Okay.
So, like from my perspective, I probably wouldn't look at it till Friday or be able to look at
Okay.
it till Friday.
Okay. I just want to be able to tell the copy editors and stuff about stuff. All right.
Okay, and there is a loophole. If we don't submit the report, the task force expires the day after we submit the report. So if you don't submit the report, we continue to exist indefinitely. No, but the task force does expire, which brings us to our next step here, which is discussion of, actually, before we get into that, it occurs to me that, Don, I don't know if you're planning on preparing minutes for this, or actually who prepares minutes, but it seems to me that it would be fitting to have minutes for the final meeting, but there won't be a meeting to approve those minutes at. So I'm wondering if I could entertain a motion to authorize the editing committee to approve the meeting minutes for August 4th, 2026. Does that make sense to folks? Does that make sense to you, Don? Okay. So is there such a motion to authorize the editing committee to approve today's meeting minutes?
So moved.
Judge Harris moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Vice Chair Mitchell seconds. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Don, would you take the roll?
Shane Baker,
Yes.
Jeremiah Carlson.
Yes.
Oh, Shane Baker, yes. Jeremiah Carlson, yes. John Donovan.
Yes.
John Donovan, yes. Mark Hazy.
Yes.
Mark Hazy, yes. Dale Harris.
Yes.
Dale Harris, yes. Amber Johnson.
Yes.
Amber Johnson, yes. Kelly Mitchell.
Yes.
Kelly Mitchell, yes. Mark Osler.
Yes.
Mark Osler, yes. Nate Wrights.
Yes.
Nate Wrights, yes. Ken Sass.
Yes.
Ken Sass, yes. Nick Sasser is not present. Rob Stewart.
Yes.
Robert Stewart, yes. Ashley Stewart-Griffith.
Yes.
Ashley Stewart-Griffith, yes. That's a unanimous vote for all personnel present.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it will be helpful just for the public record to have the full and complete set of meeting minutes. All right, so the next step is, or item number 6 is next steps in outreach discussion. So although we will cease to exist on, well, you'll be submitting the report, I'm assuming on Friday, the 14th. That's the date that you have on your report. Although it could be submitted as late as Saturday, but in any event, whatever date it is submitted to the legislature, the task force expires on the following date. So we will cease to exist. Nevertheless, I think there is sort of work to be done, and that is basically presenting this information to the legislature in a more personal way, meeting with, I view this as sort of the people who are going to be meeting with the chairs of this session when there were 3 chairs of the 2 crime committees. That seems statistically unlikely that will repeat itself, but I guess it's still possible. But presumably meeting with the 2 chairs of the crime committees next session, and basically being prepared to testify in front of the House and Senate crime committees as called upon, assuming that I skipped a step, trying to get an author in the House and the Senate for the bill, which I think will be somewhat easier because the fact that the revisor's office has assisted us means that it's going to be very easy to get a bill author assigned to it. because it's already basically been done. And so all that they need, all that they'll need is just somebody to sign on. Obviously, this will all be post-election in November, but so basically sometime in November, December, January timeframe, trying to find bill authors for these bills in the House and the Senate, making the pitch to the chairs of the House and Senate crime committees, and then, if necessary, being called upon to testify on behalf of the bill. I would assume that people who were not voting in favor would be disqualified from being on the next steps and outreach discussion. I'm willing to hear arguments to the contrary, I suppose, but and I don't know, maybe it would be helpful to have a minority voice in there to say the limited extent to which you were disagreeing, because even honestly, even this is a very agreeable group. Even the disagreements were pretty agreeable. So I guess so what I'm looking for really are volunteers to assist me. I'm not by any means a lobbyist or have any expertise or experience in that area, but anybody who finds that the position description that I just described interesting, this would be a chance to volunteer to kind of assist the process in moving this through the 2027 legislative session.
So I'm happy to help with a caveat, which is that I'm on sabbatical this fall. And so from basically now through Thanksgiving, I'm going to be out of state and out of pocket, but I'm happy to help how I can. One thing that we might want to think about is the Justice for All Coalition that's affiliated but not formally a part of the Minnesota Justice Research Center puts together a slate of bills. In fact, I think the creation of this committee was in one of the, is that right, Mark Hasse? That the creation of this task force was part of the Justice for All slate?
I believe it was.
Yeah. So we may want to approach them about having this included in the slate for the upcoming cycle. That slate is something that Justin Terrell and a couple others and Perry Moriarty and I got together in 2023. And in that year, we got 13 of 15 bills through. So it's just something to throw into the hopper in terms of next steps.
Great idea. And I don't think that timeline is a problem at all. From my perspective, most of the action's really going to heat up after the election, and I wouldn't. I would think it'd probably be, yeah. I mean, maybe some of it would start in November, but yeah, I'll take your name down, Mark, as a volunteer for the we call it the outreach. Can't really call it a committee because the task force won't really exist anymore, but the outreach group. Anybody else interested in the outreach group?
I would be willing, with the caveat that I'm 150 miles away from the Capitol.
You want to come in for a show or something? Come into the Twin Cities?
You never know. I can multitask sometimes.
I'm also willing to help out. And one thing I would also suggest is, everyone on this group is here representing a particular constituency, and all of you have associations and other groups that you're affiliated with. And I think it would be really helpful to also make sure that those groups see the report and, potentially get on board, or maybe even talk about getting on board. Like Mark and Shane are both part of the County Attorneys Association, right? And then we have public defender representative here, and then we have law enforcement sheriffs association and those sorts of things. So it seems like if the members also go back and make sure that their associations see the report, then maybe those associations would be interested in working on it too.
I would guess someone from my association would be.
Yeah, I'm planning on asking my chair if she can put it on the agenda for the next Minnesota Sentencing Guidelines Commission meeting to see if with as an action item for the commission to potentially endorse the recommendations contained in the report.
Take that under advisement.
Yeah, okay.
No, I mean, I think that yeah, we want to do that for sure. We've already introduced it to the Sentencing Guidelines Commission at the last meeting, just high level as part of Nate's regular executive director report. So we'll definitely be taking the finalized report to them as well.
And we can put together a slide deck too, if you still want us to. If that, I think we talked about it offline, if you needed one.
I'd also
Judge
be
Harris,
happy to meet with people if that would be helpful.
what's that?
I'd also be happy to meet or help out if that would be helpful.
Be part of the outreach group? Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, assuming the per diem is right.
Yeah, well, what part of expired don't you understand?
We're not going to pay you any less than we paid you for this task force.
Does it have to be a hard?
All right,
fee
sounds
right
good.
now, or
Right
can it
on.
be a soft? Or can I just say, I imagine someone from my organization will.
Okay. I mean, it'd be nice if it were somebody from the task force, but yeah, I guess it doesn't have to.
I can just, I can see what my fall and winter look like right now, and I know how busy they are, and I don't want to commit to something and have to drop out.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, we can keep it open. I mean, it's yeah, I appreciate folks' interest, but just so you know, there will be further outreach efforts. And I think that's a great point that you can all do your part in whatever organizations you're part of in doing that outreach. Okay. I think that's it for agenda item number 6. Final meeting reflections. For my part, I'll just say I think you guys all came to play. I really appreciate that. You came with your opinions. You also came willing to listen to others' opinions and change your opinions accordingly. You came up with good ideas. You didn't take what was fed to you. You responded, reacted, and improved the ideas that came to you. You listened to stakeholder input. You listened to the data. You listened to the history. You listened to other jurisdictions. I think you did exactly what the legislature intended for you to do. So I commend you all and appreciate your generosity of giving up your time for a year for this task force. Thanks.
I just have a quick comment, Nate.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you and Chair Mitchell and all the staff for all the work you have done. I know I came onto this task force late, but from the time I got on, it was very organized and things quickly, and the level of detail. And Julia, the other Minnesota Justice Research Center, I've been on quite a few task forces, and I just thought this was really well run. So thank you.
Thanks, Mark. And I certainly echo those remarks regarding Wilder and DOC and JRC. Really, really impressive support that we got from them. And I gotta do a special shout out to the vice chair, including Morgan and Kelly, and to the 3 committee leads. Couldn't have done it without you. Really appreciate your hard work.
I was going to say, you wrote so many proposals, Nate, and they were all like really, really well thought out to a level of detail that I know I couldn't have done. This package at the end, this bill that we have to deliver is pretty phenomenal. I'm excited about it. I hope we can get some traction on it. But really nice job, because I did not expect this task force to get to such consensus. I really didn't have high hopes for it. And it's your work that did that. So thank you.
All right, well, the yearbook signing will be in the lobby afterward. All right, I think that's enough accolades and platitudes and virtual roses. Moving on then to public comment.
We do have an attendee. If you're interested in making a public comment, please raise your hand and I'll elevate you to a panelist. I am not seeing a hand raised, so looking at no public comment.
All right, thanks, Don. So that brings us to the end of our agenda. That brings us to the end of our task force. Unless anybody has anything else to add, I want to thank you all for your service, and this meeting is adjourned.